And I talked about at the beginning about my pain. I grew up very lonely. I came to the U.S. when I was 7 and didn't speak English. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, didn't fit in. And I think it's that loneliness and desire to connect, that has
Mhm.
fueled this project because to me, this is not about making jewelry. This is about connection.
Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a thrill to have you here. So why don't we talk a little bit about, you've done so much and kind of defied, I think, what a lot of people think is possible. How did you create some of the things you've done in your life? Bring us back a little bit.
I think a lot of serendipity, going with intuition, and a bit of pain.
Okay. And so how do you now take that and translate that into impacting other people?
I think at this present moment, I'm in a kind of a holding pattern.
Okay.
It's been 5 years of relentless service, and
Okay.
um, I've helped millions of people find their word and hopefully live with more intention. And
Yes.
I'm at a point now where I want to just take a moment and ground and just find my center and figure out the next steps. And I think that's important as entrepreneurs and as leaders. Is oftentimes I find I don't take time for myself,
Yeah. Yeah, very true. We become
and I
selfish
think
and
I
driven.
burn myself out. And so this is a moment to just take a break.
So tell us a little bit about, you've worked with some very big names, some big companies and things like that. What has been the value you have brought to them that's made your work so powerful?
If we go back to Facebook, I think the value of data and the value of, I was trained as a consultant, and at McKinsey, they always say the data doesn't lie. And a lot of us have intuition, we have hunches, but really the truth is in the data. And so back when I first joined Facebook, I joined to work on the ad product, but uh, after I was there for a couple months, the user growth had slowed down, and I took it upon myself to learn SQL and learn how to pull data and realized that the users who were not coming back to the site, they didn't have any friends. But it took over 200 pieces of analysis to actually figure out that one insight.
Wow.
And that insight then unlocked a lot of growth for the company because we were stuck at about probably 60 million users. And then from there, it just kept going. And now it's at billions of users. But that was a big insight that users without friends didn't have a very good user experience on the site and would leave and not come back.
Wow, they were stuck at 60 million users for a while?
For a little bit until we figured that little piece of insight out. But the curve was flattening. So what happened was, in the early days, it was all college students, and
Right.
students would join. They would find their college network. They would very quickly find people they knew, and the site became very useful right away. As folks who were out of college started joining, the site wasn't didn't make it very easy to find your friends. And back then, there weren't that many people who were out of college on the site anyway. And so those people, they maybe find one or two, maybe five friends, but the other friends maybe weren't active, and then people would just drop off. And so I think the key is, what is that magical moment for a product or service to light up and actually deliver its value? For Facebook, obviously, and other social networks, it's to find people of interest for you.
Right. Now, you've worked with and impacted Jay-Z, Beyonce, Rihanna, the Trumps, Elon Musk. Tell us a little bit about that. Those are some big names.
It's just being of service. It's realizing that all of us are human and all of us could use a reminder. So what you're referencing is the MyIntent project. So I've been going
Hmm.
and asking people for a word of intention that they want to remind themselves to be their best. And so with each of the names you've mentioned, I would just go up and I would meet them at events and say, "Hey, my name is Chris. I have a gift for you." And they would always be like, "Oh, what's that?" And I would say, "Well, what's your word? What is one word that you want to remind you to be your best?" And then I would go with my maker kit and make them a bracelet. It's a hammer with a set of letter stamps.
Right.
And I hammer in the word that they chose onto a bracelet. and give it to him. And Kanye decided to wear his on the cover of the Time 100. That was a big moment for the project.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've personally made thousands, if not probably tens of thousands of bracelets for people. And the project has helped, several million people have that meaningful token to remind them. I think of it as an anchor during times of turbulence and a
Yes.
star to guide us on our path.
And you would make it right there on the spot,
Yeah, I'd make it on the spot. I was making them at the Date with Destiny event, on the main
right?
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that, to me, the whole idea was to bring coaching to the everyday.
Yes.
Because to me, this was my experience at a retreat center back in January of 13 at the Hoffman process, where I experienced a magical connection with myself, with my own intention. And I wanted to bring that to people who didn't have $5,000 in a week of time.
Right.
To me, it was like a micro retreat where if I could have a conversation with someone to help them find their word, that's the equivalent to me of helping someone find their friends on Facebook, right?
Yes.
It's finding their I am statement. It's finding their I am blank. And then they get to have that. We
Mm-hmm.
make the intangible tangible.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you get to be in the community of these big names and just walk up to them and say, "I have a gift for you"?
I think that's the magic of being in Los Angeles and just being at the right place at the right time.
What was Elon Musk's word? Do you remember?
Love.
Love.
He thought about it for a second. He gave it some real thought. He's like, in the end, it's about love.
Wow.
And it was a good little moment. I approached him, asked him. I've met him a couple times at different events, but this one in particular, yeah. He was very particular about the color of the bracelet he wanted. He wanted the black with a silver token, and yeah,
I would not have guessed that word from him had you let me guess, but that's kind of nice to hear, actually.
yeah.
It's interesting. What about Justin Bieber?
He had the word purpose. The
That
back
was the name of one of his albums, I think, or something.
exactly, yeah. So Scooter Braun has been wearing our bracelets for a long time, and I have a great story I'll share with you in a second about Scooter that I don't think I've shared anywhere publicly. But
Cool.
with Bieber, I dropped off some bracelets for Scooter. So Scooter asked me to make him bracelets, and um, he's asked me to go to his house a few times. And then because the Purpose album had just come out, I just made him a couple Purpose bracelets and left it and said, "Hey, here you go. If you like these, we can make more for you." I guess he had them in his office when Justin came by. He saw them. He really gravitated to them, grabbed a handful of them, and then he gave them to him. He wore one himself, and he gave them to his friends. And then it ended up in one of his music videos for the song "Sorry" as the acoustic version.
Yes.
Watch that music video on YouTube. You'll see him and his friends all wearing them.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
When did you start doing that?
2013, I started making these for friends and family. It was just a gift. I started hosting these gatherings on usually a Saturday or Sunday at my house. People would come over, we'd do some meditation, yoga, maybe some singing, some painting, and then we'd have a table, usually in the living room right when people came in. So you'd come into this gathering that I had, and there'd be this banging. So you'd look over, you'd be like, "What's going on over there?" And then you'd get drawn in, and then someone would ask you, "Oh, what's your word?" And that would begin this journey of finding your I am statement or finding your intention.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the anchor for these gatherings that sent a very strong message that this is about a meaningful experience. It wasn't your typical Hollywood Hills, just have a lot of alcohol and party away. But usually,
Yeah.
no alcohol at these gatherings I would have. It was like a conscious, mindful gathering.
Yeah, beautiful, more spiritual. I love it.
Yeah,
And how many do you reckon you've given out or sold or whatever?
probably between 2 and 3 million, somewhere in
Wow.
that range. Yeah,
I love how organic that is. Like it was something from your heart that gate was given life, right?
yeah. Just a gift I wanted to share with the world. And I talked about at the beginning about my pain. I grew up very lonely. I came to the U.S. when I was 7 and didn't speak English. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, didn't fit in. And I think it's that loneliness and desire to connect, that has
Hmm.
fueled this project because to me, this is not about making jewelry. This is about connection.
Right.
It's about connection with the self and connection with other people. And that's what's, I actually don't enjoy the business side of this project at all. I
Right.
consider myself more the chief bracelet giver. Like I like going around and just having connections with people and
Right.
making them and hearing their stories.
Yeah, and what I like about it is the fact that I think most people, myself included, often think, okay, what's a business idea that I can make money on that I can either love or at least tolerate, right?
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that yours came from pure essence of giving and wanting to connect. And of all the, I get to interview tons of people, and I'm seeing a pattern now after doing this for a while that most people that create change or givers either were bullied growing up or had this sense of not belonging or loneliness, and then the desire to overcome that in some way, create a movement, solve a problem, a product, a service, or what have you. And it just personifies what you said is we all want to connect.
Yeah. 100%.
It's just tough sometimes because we have that little voice, I'm not enough, they're smarter than me, they're better looking, they're taller, they're richer, whatever, right?
And I think that's the work we get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you break down those walls with that
Well, I
one.
think of each bracelet, I've had probably 30, 40 of them at this point. And I remember, the book, A Course in Miracles,
Yes.
and I've only read the first page.
Okay.
For the first paragraph, it said, this is a required course. The only option or you can elect when you want to take it. And I feel like each word that someone would choose is like a lesson.
Yeah.
It's a lesson in
Yes.
compassion and empathy and self-love. And it's just a matter of, when we want to take these lessons. And so that's the choice part. But as human beings on this planet, that's what we get to do.
Yeah. So what you're saying is kind of like maybe for this week or day or month, I might focus on gratitude and
Yeah,
make that the lesson for that period of time. And then
absolutely.
kind of war that feels good. Now I might want to go into passion or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So what's your word for month of August? We talked about this a bit before we came live.
Yeah, it's word practice. And just to, really, I think I've gotten away from my own, meditation, my journaling, my own
Mm,
practice. I think when COVID happened, I was so just fixated on trying to be helpful. Was
mm.
I launched an online school. I was doing all these lives, and I want to reestablish my own practice. And then I think there's a little bit of regret I've had of some of the decisions I've made, and it's also a reminder that life is a practice. Like we don't have to get it right, but it's okay to make mistakes and fail, and just like a practice, like you just get better.
Are you open to sharing some of those regrets?
Yeah, I think some of them were just around. I think there's a mix between wanting to help and a bit of ego and a bit of feeling enough and wanting to improve myself. So I think I started doing these lives, and we ended up going to 2 hours of daily lives a day, to 4 hours, and eventually 11 hours a day,
What?
running like an ESPN for inner work on MyIntent Live, myintent.org/live. And we did that for 7 weeks. I took a lot of my personal money and just put it into a foundation to fund this. And by the end of it, I was like, why did I go so big? And I think there was a part of me that wants to prove something, that I can be something. And I was like, I could have just kept it at 2, 4 hours and just kept it as a simmer. But I think there was a bit of me that wanted to, be great. And yeah, it was a lot. So I'm looking back like, wow, why didn't I just moderation instead of really going for it and I kind of burn myself out. And I think part of what happened was, if I look back, there was Zoom fatigue. I think when I
Yeah.
made the decision to do it, it was kind of April, May, when Zoom was the thing, and we were doing all this on Zoom. And I was thinking, oh, this summer there's so many people that are unemployed. We're going to run summer camp, and we're going to help get people through. And we did help a lot of people, and they have written in some beautiful testimonials about how this was a lifeline for them. Because I remember when I was unemployed in 2007, I had no structure in my day, and I was really
Yeah.
lonely. so I wanted to be there for other people. So that came from a good place, but I think I didn't have to make it so extreme in terms of what we were offering all at once. So that's just a lesson that it's moderation, and in the future, just I mean, I think I have a go big kind of personality that I'm learning to temper a bit as I mature and hopefully get a bit more wisdom.
So one of the things that makes me think of is that, at one point in time, we want to achieve a goal, open up a business, hit $1 million, get in a relationship, buy a car, what have you. And then we create a new identity. Example, I have a nice car, a nice house, a nice relationship, and a successful business. Then there's a part of us that goes, okay, now that's how the world sees me. I'm going to do this next thing. It's got to be at that level or greater. Does that resonate with you at all?
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. This need to achieve, this need to
Yeah,
bigger, better.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's the American way, right? It's leverage technology, double down, 10x, 100x,
uh,
and even Elon Musk. I look at Elon Musk once in a while and I'm like, okay, hold on a second. His stock went up 150 bucks on Monday. He made $7 billion. He came out with a new vehicle. He launched a rocket. And that's 1 week of this guy's life, right? And I'm like,
exactly.
what am I doing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So there's the social mediaization of I'm not enoughness.
yeah. This glorification of people that achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
And the mindfulness does not get a lot of votes when it comes to transformation in America, right?
yeah, 100%.
So I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that page. I tussle with that all the time, and my practice also has waned a little bit when it comes to, it's quick. With COVID, I started investing on the stock market a bit, and so I get up, and I'm on the West Coast like you, and I do a couple of things, and I'm like, okay, the market's going to open soon. Let me check it. And I'm not mindful anymore. I'm not in my practice. I'm out of it because my ego wants to go, were you right with what you
Yeah.
did? Are you
Mm-hmm.
going to make big money and get to show everybody you made a big decision? And I
Yeah.
can see my ego doing it. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I pulled out of the market mostly in March, and now I'm having some second thoughts. I was like,
Right.
wow. Uh, yeah. And so these things, I'm looking back, like, ooh, did I make the right decision? Like, but then, like, what does it all mean anyway? Like, what, even if I did have whatever more, what does this all really mean? So I think there's a lot that this whole uncertainty is teaching myself, at least.
I think that Mother Nature, the universe, what have you, has decided to give the entire planet a personal development uh, course in miracles that you are going to do now, whether you like it or not.
Dealing with, I mean, I'll share the scooter story if you're
Yes, please.